Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, will the Indy Airport see a rebound in traffic this travel season? 16 Tech welcomes another new tenant. We visit a family-owned foam furniture company. A big-name utility rebrands. Indiana businesses are doing their part to vaccinate Hoosiers. Tech and Butler target Indiana's teacher shortage. We remember Slick Leonard, and our insiders take on the top business stories of the week. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. Indianapolis International Airport has experienced a welcome uptick in traffic, thanks in part to basketball fans that came to town for March Madness and spring break travelers. So, how's the rest of the season shaping up? Indianapolis Airport Authority Executive Director Mario Rodriguez joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick with perspective.
You're seeing more activity. Last year, 1 year ago, obviously things were very tough, essentially shut down with the onset of the pandemic. Talk about what you have seen at the airport, Mario, in March in particular, with March Madness and spring break traffic.
It's fantastic. You know, that's why we do this job, to see people travel, to see people happy. And March Madness has been an incredible boost for not just the airport, but for the whole region. People are traveling, and the numbers looked similar to 2019 numbers, which is very, very positive.
That is amazing, back to 2019 numbers. However, obviously it's not back to normal. As you look at the coming months, the summer travel season into the fall, the rest of 2021, how do you view 2021, and when might things be back to normal when it comes to air travel?
Well, back to normal is really subjective. We're looking at about 2024 until we actually reach numbers that looked like 2019. But remember, we came from nothing.
Yep.
Last year, 2020, we only had 43% of what we had in 2019. This year, excuse me?
Yeah,
yes,
go ahead.
Harry. And this year, we're trending in the right direction. We'll probably be in the 60s to the 70s%. Now, what's actually interesting is that the normal business airlines have reduced in capacity around 20 to 25%. But the ultra low-cost carriers, which are normally associated with going to sun and fun places, going on vacation, have increased their capacity over 30%. So in other words, there's more ultra low-cost carriers now than we had in 2019.
Yeah.
And
Mario, as I jump in there, I think it's interesting that what you're seeing is that mix of business versus leisure travel, a lot more seats on the leisure travel side, business travel not going away, but fewer seats. Something you said probably was going to happen maybe 3 to 5 years down the road, happening now.
And this is my opinion. If you look at business, and you know this, you are an expert at this. Business evolves, and it's continuously evolving. Now, what I think COVID did is that it accelerated the evolution of business, say 5 years and 5 months. Exactly what we're doing right now would have happened anyway. So some businesses, although business travel is always incredibly important and will remain incredibly important, some travel would become unnecessary because you could do it via virtual meetings. And that's happening more and more. So our airline industry is evolving to that, and we're evolving to that. So business travel, not that it hasn't come back, think of it as an evolution, and there's going to be new business products for the business people from the airline industry.
Yeah, people have to feel confident to travel. The vaccine continues to roll out. That's part of the equation. Briefly, what are some of the things you're doing there at the airport, have been doing, will continue to do from a safety and a health protocol standpoint?
Oh, yeah. Our folks on the ground are true heroes. The airport is hospital grade clean. We continue to maintain the airport at a high level. We give out masks for free. The federal government gave us 450,000 masks to protect our customers. And actually, there's a federal mandate that requires mask wearing from the door of the terminal to the aircraft and out of the other door on the other terminal, whichever your destination is. So it's still a federal mandate that you wear, not only on the aircraft, but within the terminal, you wear a mask.
All right. Mario Rodriguez is Executive Director of the Indianapolis Airport Authority. Things beginning to come back in a big way at the airport. Mario, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you very much.
All right.
The $500 million 16 Tech Innovation District in Indianapolis has another new tenant. Philadelphia-based 1776 is opening a new co-working space in the West Side Tech Hub. Chief of Staff Charlotte Lee joined us to talk about why the company chose Indianapolis and what it means for economic development.
I know you're coming to us from Philadelphia, kind of the headquarters for 1776. I mentioned Indianapolis, the first location for 1776 in the Midwest. First of all, give us the model. What 1776 is all about.
Certainly. So you said it right. We are a network of incubation and shared workspaces, really focusing on providing resources to entrepreneurs to help spur and facilitate their growth for the innovations of tomorrow. We are industry agnostic. We serve entrepreneurs from across all industries and really trying to provide them access to capital, talent, and other resources that will help them grow.
We're looking at video now of your space at 16 Tech, the $500 million innovation district on the near west side of Indianapolis. When I ask you why Indianapolis, I know 16 Tech and what that concept is all about. That's one of the reasons you're locating here.
Indeed. Innovation hubs, innovation districts are really starting to become a very exciting and very popular idea around the country, around the world, an opportunity to bring together like-minded individuals, not just entrepreneurs, but makers and small businesses, enterprise-level companies, and service providers in order to have a space under one roof where innovation can really be spurred organically, where conversations can happen, interactions can take place, and growth can really be facilitated.
Yeah, which is a big part, I know, of the model or the idea behind 16 Tech. You already have some members who are signed up and are going to be part of the 1776 footprint here in Indianapolis. Give us a thumbnail, if you will, of some of the companies that are engaged right now.
Sure. Probably most exciting is that some of our founding members are in the venture space. Mm-hmm. So we have a venture row in our startup garages, a name which is a wink and nod to the original innovators really out of their garages. So we have Next Studios, Boomerang Ventures, and Lightship Capital. And it's so exciting to have organizations like that who are in the innovation space and also can, again, invest not just time, but dollars in the entrepreneurs in the area. We also have Innova RTs, Triple T Academy, Indy with Kids, some of those local groups who are, again, run the gamut of the industry spectrum and are going to be bringing some really exciting things to the space.
Yep. Only have about 30 seconds, Charlotte, but I know you and I were talking off camera. And as you look at innovation spaces around the country, one thing, among others, stood out to you about 16 Tech as being unique.
Yeah, what I really love about 16 Tech is that they're being incredibly intentional about their engagement with the community. So many of these spaces get plopped down in an unused area in a city, in a region, and the surrounding areas, often underserved, are left out of that innovation and that growth. And 16 Tech is being incredibly intentional to engage the surrounding communities, ensure that they're part of that, they have the same opportunities and access to those resources so that it is truly economic regional growth.
Great perspective from Charlotte Lee, Chief of Staff, 1776 Indianapolis. Charlotte, thanks so much. Hope things are well in Philadelphia. Look forward to seeing you here in Indianapolis.
Thanks so much.
For more than 65 years, Indianapolis-based Foamcraft has distributed foam and latex to furniture, boat, and RV manufacturers throughout the Midwest. The family-owned company entered the kids' furniture business around 10 years ago with its Foamnasium line. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has the story of the product that has become a hit around the globe.
My grandfather founded Foamcraft Incorporated in the 50s, and we were always in Indianapolis. So our first showroom was in Fountain Square, and at that time we were fabricating foam for couches and cushions.
Fast forward nearly 70 years, and today, the third-generation family-owned foam business is producing one of the hottest toys on the market, Foamnasium.
We create foam play sets that inspire active and imaginative play. So that could be anything. It could be couches, it could be big wedges, circles, anything that just allows a kid to be able to build things.
Let's pretend this is my house.
Okay.
So what do we have here?
Foamnasium.
A foamnasium. Now, you've told me that this turns into a playground. I don't believe you. How do you do that?
We take it apart and use imagination.
Can you show me?
Sure.
You're a little architect. Look at this.
Foamnasium officially launched in 2010, sparked by requests from local churches and daycares wanting foam play equipment.
When we launched, we were trying to go straight to all daycares, almost daycare catalogs where they have everything they need for a daycare.
It would be a 2013 trade show, however. That would change everything.
Other way, right?
When the small upstart out of Greenfield, Indiana, caught the attention of the largest internet-based store on the globe.
Amazon had a rep at one of these trade shows who approached us and just asked if we would put our stuff on Amazon, which we of course did.
An online retailer, Wayfair, came along shortly thereafter.
When we first started, we were just trying to get anywhere and everywhere we could. We just wanted exposure.
And patience paid off. Nearly a decade since it launched, the team at Foamnasium saw sales skyrocket in December 2019, making several prominent lists as the holiday must-have for moms and, of course, kids across the country.
Why is it better than, let's say, some of your other toys?
Really squishy, so we can land on it, and then it wouldn't hurt. And we could jump on it, and it's soft.
I think kids love it because it allows them to get a lot of energy out and do so in their own mind. They're able to create whatever they want to, and they have total free reign to be able to make something out of big pieces. Kids love big things.
We need to flip this one over.
And big-name retailers clearly love Foamnasium. Earlier this year, the foam play sets launched in Pottery Barn Kids, Bed Bath & Beyond, and will soon be available at West Elm.
And when you get approached by Pottery Barn, it does create almost this recognition for people that this isn't just a mom and pop brand. This is a brand that has clout and has quality and has functionality and everything that you would expect from those retailers.
And the numbers don't lie. Foamnasium produced 40 units in its first year in business. Fast forward to 2021, and the company is shelling out 60 play sets a day. That's 50% more per day now than what Foamnasium did in their entire first year.
I mean, we're shipping out 100 units a day. We could do more if we could produce more. And that's what's been so exciting. It just continues to grow because people love the product.
Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
Indianapolis Power and Light has changed its name to AES Indiana to reflect the name of its Virginia parent, AES Corporation. The utility is also looking to create a more diverse electric generation portfolio. We get more from President and CEO Christina Lund.
AES, a Virginia-based big utility entity, energy entity, if you will, acquired IPL back in 2001. So the name change, if you will, the brand change to AES Indiana is a natural reflecting the parent company.
We are so proud of our history as IPL. We've been reliably serving our customers for more than a century. And we have changed our name to AES Indiana, building on this foundation for where we see the industry going. And so for customers who don't know a ton about AES, it's a global company that's really a leader in innovation in the industry, from batteries to renewables to digital applications. And so what this means is that we have a lot of technologies that we can apply for our customers right here in Indiana.
And that portfolio mix, the way you distribute energy, power, it's all changing, again, all related to technology. Talk about your vision, Christina, if you will, for AES Indiana. It's about more than providing electric service. What types of things are customers going to see from AES Indiana?
Technology is really driving a transformation in energy. And what these technologies are allowing is for us to create new products and services that will help our customers meet their most important objectives, especially reliability, affordability, and sustainability. And what we expect is that we'll be able to offer personalized services for customers as diverse as young families to thriving tech companies and really help them achieve their objectives.
Looking at a number of different kinds of partnerships, one with Motor, an entity which really is engaged in getting more people into electric cars, essentially. Talk about that partnership, and I guess that's a good example of what you're talking about in some of these new partnerships, new ventures that AES will be involved with.
Yes, Motor is a great example. So we all know that electric vehicles are coming. GM announced that it is seeking to eliminate tailpipe emissions from its light-duty fleet by 2035. But even closer to home, everywhere I go in Indy, I see electric vehicles on the road. And when I talk to our customers, they're all seeking support in how to integrate electric vehicles into their lives and into their operations. And so Motor is seeking to make it very easy for customers to get an electric vehicle. In fact, we have a service that allows you to get a car from your phone. And we're working in partnership with local dealerships to make that possible. The other thing we're doing is looking at how to make the charging of the electric vehicles work best for all utility customers. Because if these vehicles are charged at the right times, what it can do is lower costs for all customers. And so we're filing a plan with the Utility Commission to offer these services and really drive some benefits for all utility customers, whether they drive an EV or not.
Right. Okay, we're out of time. I know you're announcing a big partnership, IndyCar sponsorship with Sage Karam. Got a big solar project at the Speedway. More to talk about on your next visit. Christina Lund, the CEO of AES Indiana, thanks for joining us.
Thank you again for the time. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Hundreds of Hoosier businesses are working with the state to set up their own COVID-19 vaccination clinics. One of them is biotech giant Roche Diagnostics. Head of People and Culture Bridget Boyle gave details to Kylie Valletta in the Business of Health.
Okay, well, Roche has had its vaccination clinic running about 3 weeks now on site. Employees have a lot of options of places they can go to get their vaccines. So why did Roche want to give them this option on Roche's campus?
Well, it originally started because we have about 900 of our essential employees on campus every day, and they've been on campus through the pandemic. These are people in manufacturing and supply chain and education. And so our main goal has been the safety of those employees, keeping them healthy and safe. And so we thought there's no better way to provide an easy way to get the vaccine than to just bring it right on site, right where they are, to help schedule around their work shifts. They don't have to leave campus. They are getting the vaccine from familiar faces that run our wellness center. And so all of it just seemed to make sense to us.
And really part of the culture there at Roche too, right? I mean, it's convenient, but also it kind of ties into Roche's culture.
Absolutely. Yeah, we throughout the entire pandemic, we have looked for ways to support our employees to make sure that they feel taken care of and that we recognize that we have a lot of programs and services available to them and family members.
Okay, well, give us a snapshot of the clinic. Explain how you sort of opened it in stages and the numbers that you're seeing now.
Yeah, in fact, I have experienced it myself. I got my vaccine a couple weeks ago, my first one, and I'll be getting my second one next week. We originally opened it up to our essentials, and so we have ordered about 1,800 vaccines total. We prioritized our essential employees. It's very easy, for employees to walk over to that part of our campus. They're greeted by familiar faces. The state was so helpful to us in getting it set up. And, we have our wellness center employees giving the vaccines, and then the employees wait for 15 minutes talking to each other and sharing experiences. It's just been so smooth. No wait times, very convenient.
And big picture, it's part of an effort to help get people back to the office. And I think that's a really big question in the corporate world right now is what is work going to look like once we're finally on the other side of this. So with the vaccines in mind, explain Roche's plans here as it's looking to eventually open back up its campus.
Right. Yeah. And the vaccines is an important part of that. We're doing about 300 vaccines per week. And so we're going to continue on. And we definitely know that we will return to campus. We know that we will likely return sometime this summer. And it will be slowly. We will return in waves, and we're going to have to follow the CDC and OSHA guidelines. So we expect that there would be some masks. We would have to wear masks. We would have social distancing, depending on what those guidelines are. But we're really focused on employee experience and bringing people back safely and in a way that we can manage, again, focusing on that employee experience.
We only have a few seconds left, but Roche has delivered more than 55 million COVID tests throughout the U.S. Does that connection with your employees help motivate them, you think, to get vaccinated?
I absolutely believe so. I mean, we have been in the middle of this fight against the pandemic for the last 12, 15 months through all the tests that we've delivered across the U.S. That was step one. And step two is now the vaccines. We see that as continuing our fight against the pandemic and making a difference not only for our employees and their families, but in the community as well.
All right. Well, hats off to Roche for all it's done during the pandemic, and good luck with the on-site clinic. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Indiana continues to face a teacher shortage, but more help may be on the way. Ivy Tech Community College and Butler University have established a transfer agreement for students earning a bachelor's degree in elementary education. Butler College of Education Dean Brooke Candle-Cisco has more in our Eye on Education segment.
Let's talk about this articulation agreement, which is the first for Butler's College of Education with another institution of higher education, Ivy Tech Community College. How did it come about?
Sure. Yeah, this is the first articulation agreement for Butler University. And the College of Education has, for several years, had dual credit agreements with local high schools where high school students were able to take college level courses while still in high school. So this really was just the next natural step, was to develop a full articulation agreement wherein students could complete their associate's degree at Ivy Tech and then transfer into Butler's College of Education as juniors in our elementary education program.
What are the benefits, as you see, of this program, this articulation agreement from a potential teacher standpoint in terms of cost and access and all those types of things?
Sure. Well, certainly Ivy Tech's reach across the state helps with addressing the rural teacher shortage. So we know that rural districts in particular have a difficult time attracting and retaining educators. So the fact that Ivy Tech is spread across the state allows students to access an associate's degree that then could move into the bachelor's degree. There's also the issue of cost, and of course, pursuing the first 2 years of a bachelor's degree at Ivy Tech through their associate's degree route is a significant reduction in cost that still allows students to end up with a bachelor's in elementary education from Butler University.
Talk about, if you would, Brooke, the teacher shortage has been talked about a lot, but how substantial, how severe it is, especially as you mentioned in rural areas around the state.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, pretty much every district has a difficult time attracting teachers, and we could probably talk for hours about the reasons for the teacher shortage, but more importantly is how we're going to respond to that. So there are some specific licensure areas in which there are shortage. Special education is one of them. But then just generally speaking, we want to create as many access options for young people as well as adults who perhaps have had another career and now want to move into teaching to get access to a teacher preparation program and a teaching license so they can get out and get in front of students.
Yeah, I know you feel there is a real opportunity with this agreement to help solve a diversity-related inclusion issues related to teachers.
Yeah, so we know that about 90 to 92% of Indiana's teachers identify as white, and that is disproportionate relative to the K-12 student population. So any way that we can open up access, including articulation agreements such as this, we hope is one way to try to attract and retain increasing numbers of teachers of color to serve in our classrooms.
We only have about 30 seconds left, but I know one of the key issues, as you and I talked off camera a moment ago, articulation agreements in and of themselves aren't necessarily the answer. It's the pathways and how they're presented, how they're created, that ultimately that alignment that actually makes the difference.
Sure. But part of Butler's strategic direction, the Butler Beyond strategic direction, is really opening up access to Butler and to bachelor's degrees. And so my hope is that these articulation agreements, this one and the ones that are to come, will really help us develop pipelines and pathways with local high schools to build apprenticeship programs, early college programs, and even programs for adult learners.
Addressing the teacher shortage, a partnership between Butler University and Ivy Tech Community College. Brooke Candle-Cisco, Dean of the College of Education at Butler. Brooke, thanks very much for the perspective. Look forward to having you go on the show in the future.
All right. Thank you again.
Indiana continues to honor Bobby Slick Leonard, who died this month at the age of 88. The Hoosier legend epitomized what basketball means to the state of Indiana. Inside Indiana sports contributor Bill Benner helped us remember the life of this Indiana icon.
Bill, you had many interactions with Slick over the years as a sports writer, Pacer Sports and Entertainment, numerous venues. Your reaction? I mean, everyone has reacted in the days ensuing since he passed, but it was tough for a lot of people.
Well, even though we knew he was having health issues, my initial reaction was surprise. And I was surprised, Gary, because as tough and as ornery as Slick was, I thought he'd outlive every one of us. I mean, he survived 2 heart attacks. He survived a plane crash in a cornfield in the middle of Iowa. And again, numerous health challenges in the later years. But once I got past the shock and sadness of hearing that Slick had passed, I've been delighted to hear all the great remembrances and thoughts about this genuine Indiana Hoosier legend. And I don't use those words casually. He embodies Indiana basketball, high school, college, pro.
Yeah, and it truly is a Hoosier story. You know, growing up from extremely humble means in Terre Haute, Indiana University, on to the NBA, the ABA coaching, NBA as well, a coaching career, broadcasting career that spanned decades. It was an amazing life.
Well, it certainly was. And you mentioned growing up in Terre Haute, he had a very, very tough life. But one of the things about that toughness was he played against guys bigger, stronger with him on the youth courts, and they pounded the crap out of him, and it made him even tougher. He went to the free throw line to hit 2 free throws to win IU a national championship. Missed the first one, so that set up the second one. He always said, "Well, I felt something running down on my leg, and it wasn't sweat." But he made that second free throw, and then again he went. After a stint in the Army, he was a heck of an NBA player, and then certainly his time with the Pacers, leading them to 3 ABA titles, making the Pacers the model franchise of the ABA, paved the way into the being added into the NBA, and certainly that enabled Indianapolis to become the professional and amateur sports town that it's become since.
Yeah, I know you and others have made the argument, and I tend to agree with it, that without Slick Leonard and what he accomplished, Indianapolis may not be what it is today in terms of downtown development, a sports capital, a professional sports city.
Well, the success of the ABA Pacers at the Fairgrounds Coliseum certainly was paved the way for the construction of Market Square Arena, the beginning of downtown development, and then in 1978, the telethon. Yeah. And who would ever thought that a sports franchise?
Quickly, Bill, talk about that. I remember it. I was a bit younger. A lot of people may not remember it. I think back on that. That was an amazing thing.
Well, it sure was, and that really, the idea came from his great wife, Nancy. I always refer to her as the First Lady, but they set a goal. We need to sell this many season tickets to save the franchise. And indeed, that's what occurred over the telethon over the 4th of July weekend. And then, subsequently, they saved the franchise. The Simons stepped in to keep the franchise from being moved in the early 80s. And then everything, would we have the Colts? Would we have built a stadium? All the things that ensued, really, the telethon may have been the catalyst for that.
Hey, Bill, we're out of time. We're about 30 seconds, but you have so many memories of Slick. Is there one that stands out?
Yeah, down in San Antonio, my first year as the beat writer for the Pacers, the Hang 'em High series at San Antonio, the very first game, the timer froze on the clock and gave them a chance to win the game in regulation. And Slick was enraged, went down, tried to choke the timer, tried to challenge Bob Bass, who was the coach. And then later that night, after he'd had a few beers, he called me in my hotel room and wanted to make sure that he was quoted accurately in the paper. And his quote was, "Tell Bob Bass, their coach, I'm going to kick his rear, I'm going to kick their timer's rear, and I'm going to kick their fans' rear if anything like this ever happens again." You got that, Billy? I said, I got it, Slick.
Outstanding. Hey, real quick, I know you brought an ABA ball with an autograph, and that's reflective of the kind of guy Slick was too, right?
Slick said always, if anybody ever took the time and honored me by asking for my autograph, I want to make sure that it's legible. And so he's had beautiful handwriting, but always took the time to sign a legible autograph. And he passed that along to Larry Bird, and Larry Bird does the same, a very legible, memorable autograph.
That's outstanding. Bill, great perspective, great memories. Appreciate you taking the time to talk about a great Hoosier. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
I'm honored to.
And finally this week, our insiders take on Indiana's biggest business stories, including March Madness, the COVID-19 vaccine rollout, and what post-pandemic tourism might look like. This week's panel includes Visit Indy Senior Vice President Chris Gall, former state lawmaker Christina Hale, and Ball State Center for Business and Economic Research Director Mike Hicks.
I have to start with March Madness and reaction. Chris, I'll start with you. You were certainly at ground zero, very much involved and on the front lines of that effort. Talk about what you feel the impact is and will be from Indianapolis largely, West Lafayette and Bloomington too, but Indianapolis, Central Indiana pulling off really a Herculean effort.
Well, it's a sense of pride, Gary. Yet we don't know the exact economic benefit of hosting March Madness in its entirety. We plan to employ alongside our point guard, the Indiana Sports Corporation, Rockport Analytics, to study the X's and O's and just how healthy the 9 figures of economic impact was derived from March alone. We do know that our hotels enjoyed a bump. Year to date, our downtown hotels are ranking 7th in the nation, for revenue per available room. So we know that people are coming. We know that March Madness moved the needle. We have at least one convention that's signed on the dotted line because of being in Indianapolis amidst the pandemic, amidst March Madness. That's a convention that'll take place in 2025. And we have a few others we hosted during March that are moving closer to signing. And so it did have an impact. The last thing I'll mention about the branding, if you will, the boost coming into our heightened travel season of spring, we enjoyed more than 4,200 news stories nationally, internationally about Indianapolis hosting the pandemic. So that's hosting March Madness. That was a big boost to our brand.
Yeah, and along those lines, because I felt that was incredible, seemed to be all, mostly anyway, positive stories about that. Christina, as you look at the coverage and the attention that Indianapolis got as a host city, as a sports capital, all the various stories that were done on a national level, that ultimately you would think may have some impact as well.
Oh, it'll have lasting impact over time. This just builds on our success hosting the Super Bowl several years ago. And in the deeper past, the Pan Am Games, the world knows that Indianapolis can pull off major world-class events in dire circumstances with complicated moving parts. In the best of times, we're a fun place, but we can also handle the really heavy lift. And when we have all the balls in the air and just shine, and the world saw it, it was reflected in those stories, but more importantly, not just in our brand, but in our reputation in a city that delivers.
Yeah, and you talk about a heavy lift. I totally agree that to pull that off and the complications and moving parts was truly, pretty amazing. Mike, March Madness, no doubt, giving Indianapolis, perhaps more broadly, Central Indiana, a boost. How do you look at the Indiana economy? How do you see the Indiana economy coming out eventually, slowly but surely, out of the pandemic?
Sure. Well, I mean, the March Madness was an amazing story. can't wait to see the study. I'm going to say $150 to $250 million impact. Just because there was nothing else really going on. It was a really slow season, and wow, pulled off beautifully. You don't need to be an economist to know things are coming back. You can drive around, go to restaurants in central Indiana or elsewhere. That's really taken place. We get great numbers today on retail sales coming out of the downturn with the stimulus beginning to hit and people thinking about vacations and that sort of stuff. All that said, we're down 140,000, 150,000 jobs from the beginning of the recession. That puts us back to April, May of 2015 levels. And so it's going to take us a couple, 3 years to pull out the labor market effect of this, even if the other parts of it, the attendance, GDP, and income start zooming back quickly over the next several months.
Yeah, some ground to make up indeed. Christina, as you look at the vaccine rollout here in Indiana, seems to largely be positive. Obviously, the Johnson & Johnson situation, not exclusive to Indiana, of course, but providing a little hiccup. So much of this, I think, will be dependent upon Hoosiers feeling confident to go back into stores and retail outlets and restaurants and to fly again. How do you sense that is happening now with the rollout, seemingly going, for the most part, pretty well? Do you think that later on in the year, folks are going to be comfortable going back to stadiums and being around other people?
I do think people are feeling a lot more comfortable. I live in Broad Ripple Village here in Indianapolis, and I'll tell you, the restaurants, particularly outside, are packed. Yep. People are ready for some fun. They're ready to get on planes. I mean, I'm ready. I'm vaccinated now. And, during the pandemic, my son developed a serious girlfriend out in Los Angeles. You better believe this mom wants to get on a plane to go check out that situation. But, so many of us miss people. We miss life, our friends. And that we'll see reflected in the hospitality industry. But I also just want to underscore what you said about this process going very smoothly for the most part in Indiana. And I also think that we pivoted with the Johnson & Johnson, kind of immediate hiccup very smoothly as well. Everybody who really wants to be vaccinated now can be. That's a very big deal that can't be discounted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got my 2 vaccines, so I'm good to go. Chris, as you're looking at the remainder of the year in the hospitality, the tourism sector, so important to Indiana, in particular central Indiana, what's your gut feel at this point as to if we'll be back to closer to full go later this year?
Well, the convention, it's a great question. On the convention side, I'm here inside the Indiana Convention Center, and there are 2 groups, each 4,000 apiece, that are rolling up and moving out of the facility. So even after March Madness, we have groups with health plans convening. We still have about 220 conventions holding course, and we'll convene here in Indianapolis through the remainder of the year. Usually we have about 500, and so that's a point of perspective. We know that June is really a go, no-go date as we talk to event organizers who are slated to convene. That's the murky month right now on whether they can build a density of people to pull off a trade show. On the leisure side, when we look at all the research that we get in, consumers are hungry, just like Christina. They want to travel, they want to see loved ones, and we believe that visiting friends and family, in other words, local residents inviting their family and friends to come see them, will open the gates here and be the first out to come travel. So consumer confidence building and most likely traveling via car, not plane, in the short term.
Yeah, got to be very quick, Mike. 15 seconds. Thumbs up on coming out of the pandemic in Indiana in a positive light, ultimately?
Yeah, we're going to recover pretty much like the nation will be. Central Indiana a good bit faster just because of the composition of that economy. Yep. And it's really going to take a couple of years, though, to fully get back. All
right. Great perspectives from the Insiders panel. Chris Gull, Christina Hale, Mike Hicks. Thank you all.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.